Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror TV series named American Horror Stories Season 1. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The first story, titled Rubber Man, takes place in a most famous haunted house in Los Angeles. The new owners are a pair of dads and their 16-year-old adopted daughter, Scarlett. Despite knowing the house's haunting history, they moved here because the dads don't believe in ghosts and spirits, and they even plan to use the terrifying urban legends to make money on Halloween. Little do the dads know that the haunted house has a rule. Those who die inside will never be able to move on. The ghosts have never left newcomers alone, and their final moments are approaching. Scarlett doesn't like moving and changing schools, but she's a minor and has no choice but to follow her dad's. While she's packing her things, a red ball rolls to her feet. She doesn't think much of it and tosses it into a box. Soon, another ball rolls over and she picks it up and walks down the hallway. A cabinet opens on its own, revealing a rubber outfit inside. Surprisingly, it's to her taste. Scarlett immediately takes it to her room to try on. The outfit wraps tightly around her, making her look quite attractive. As Scarlett admires herself in the mirror, a man with a tilted head suddenly appears. Startled, she quickly takes off the rubber outfit and throws it in the trash bin outside the haunted house. At Scarlett's new school, there's a beautiful supermodel named Maya. Scarlett always looks at Maya with a special gaze, shy yet filled with desire. It seems Scarlett likes girls. However, Maya is different from the other girls who tease and mock her. Maya doesn't feel offended and even flirts with Scarlett, complimenting her wild mind. This drives Scarlett wild with infatuation. A friend bluntly points out that Maya is a professional actress and warns Scarlett to be careful not to get tricked. Nevertheless, Scarlett can't help but fantasize about her crush. However, in her most exciting fantasy, she imagines herself being choked to death. Scarlett suddenly wakes up to find the rubber man hanging upside down from the ceiling. She screams like a little chicken, realizing it was just a dream. She decides to browse through Maya's photos to calm herself down. Unexpectedly, Maya sends Scarlett a text inviting her to a pajama party on the weekend. Maya even hints that they can have some fun after their friends fall asleep. Scarlett is looking forward to the weekend party. However, her dads suddenly sit her down for a serious talk. They've noticed that she's been watching some extreme videos lately. They tell her it's okay for a girl to watch this kind of videos, but the ones she's watching seem too violent and bloody. Scarlett is still a child, and they worry she might hurt herself if things get out of control. One dad bluntly asks if she thinks she's a dominant or a submissive. Scarlett refuses to answer the question, and her dad's method of dealing with a rebellious child is to enforce a strict internet and grounding ban. Now, even buying sexy lingerie is forbidden for her. While Scarlett is feeling frustrated, her wardrobe opens on its own, and the discarded rubber outfit has returned. Scarlett can't help but put it on. However, her eyes turn black, and she grabs a knife, heading to her dad's room. A rubber figure wielding a knife appears out of nowhere in the house, scaring the two dads. When they realize it's their daughter playing a prank, they become angry. This time, Scarlett insists on keeping the outfit, emphasizing that her body and mind are free, and her dads can't control her for her entire life. During the argument, one dad accidentally gets cut by the knife. No one wants this to happen, but now the situation has become serious. The next day, the dads called in a therapist to investigate why Scarlett liked violence. They mentioned her experience of being kidnapped when she was 3 years old. Scarlett disappeared for 10 days, and when the police found her, there were no injuries on her body. But Scarlett didn't remember anything about the incident, nor did she show any fear. Her dads believed this event had a deep impact on her, but the therapist suggested that the negative energy in the haunted house might be more significant. Although the therapist didn't believe in ghosts, she thought that when people knew they were in a terrifying place, their subconscious might create dark images. The session wasn't pleasant, and before the therapist left, she went to the bathroom to dump her wastewater. But then, she was drawn to a red ball that suddenly rolled out onto the floor, and she noticed a shadow flitting past her. Out of curiosity, she looked towards the basement and was suddenly attacked. The haunted house, which enjoyed toying with people, was finally about to start harvesting. When one of the dads walked by the basement, he saw a rubber suit stained with blood on the ground. He thought it might be Scarlett's period blood, but he thought it would be best to burn such an evil object as soon as possible. Because she was grounded, Scarlett stayed in her room, sulking. Late at night, Maya sent her another text, teasing her and urging her to sneak out while her dads were asleep. Scarlett couldn't resist and ran out to the pajama party hosted by Maya. Maya and 3 other girls were the notorious Fantastic Four of their school, the kind that everyone found annoying and gossip-loving. They chattered and gossiped about Scarlet, making her feel like an outsider. When Maya saw that Scarlet wasn't wearing pajamas, she offered to lend her some of her own and pulled her into the bedroom. Feeling embarrassed, Scarlet took off her coat and confessed her feelings to Maya, saying that she wore this lingerie especially for her. As Maya didn't reject her advance, Scarlet opened up and talked about her secret fetish for domination. As she spoke, her phone kept ringing with notifications. Her friend was texting her, urging her to stop talking. It turned out that this was all a trap set by Maya and her gang. They had left a phone in the room, live streaming everything that had happened. And just like that, Scarlet was humiliated in front of everyone. Heartbroken, Scarlet returned home. She couldn't find anyone to confide in, and to make matters worse, the Fantastic Four continued to provoke her with phone calls. The public humiliation had made her the talk of the school, and Scarlet couldn't bear it any longer. So she threatened Maya, saying she would terminate herself and write a letter exposing their behavior, leaving them to face the consequences unless they showed up at her house within half an hour. The threat of jail scared the Fantastic Four, so they rushed to Scarlet's house even though they knew it was the infamous haunted building. Believing in strength in numbers, the 4 girls held hands and pushed open the front door. But just as they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them. At that moment, Maya received a text from Scarlet. The 4 of them went down to the basement, where the atmosphere was filled with terror. Suddenly, a ghostly figure appeared, causing them to run for their shitty lives. They collided with Scarlet, who was wearing a rubber suit. As upbeat music played, Scarlet took one life after another, achieving a quadruple kill. The rubber suit helped Scarlet find her own happiness. Early the next morning, the 2 dads saw Scarlet fixing up the house. There was a hollow wall in one of the rooms that she had expertly bricked up. Scarlet apologized to her dads for her previous outburst and admitted that she had a secret fetish for domination. After her dads left, the therapist suddenly appeared and asked her how she felt after killing the 4 girls. Scarlet felt no need for therapy, as she had never experienced such satisfaction in her life. For violence-loving Scarlet, the haunted house became her paradise once she learned that people become ghosts after they die and can be killed endlessly. She would play with ghostly nurses when she was bored, and even met a ghostly girl named Ruby, who had a tragic past since her parents' death. It turned out Ruby had been abused by her so-called uncle since childhood, only to discover that her parents were not dead, but had sold her to him for money. She chose to end her own life in the haunted house to expose the truth and become a headline, but her body was secretly buried in the backyard by a real estate agent to sell the house. Ruby liked Scarlet and wanted her to end her life in the haunted house so they could be together forever. But ever since the Fantastic Four died in the house, Scarlet had been constantly on guard, fearing their revenge. With the protection of Ruby, no other ghost would dare to hurt Scarlet. The disappearance of the 4 girls still attracted the attention of the Los Angeles police, who found the haunted house through phone tracking. However, the dads insisted that Scarlet was not involved, as she was as weak as a chicken and not physically capable of fighting 4 people. The dads were still worried about their daughter, as she seemed sleep-deprived. They scheduled another therapy session for her. Scarlet didn't mind the dark and painful atmosphere of the haunted house, but her dads became increasingly anxious. The short-haired dad claimed to have seen a pig-like ghost and smelled bacon in the air, while the long-haired dad dismissed it as a drunken hallucination. The 2 dads argued constantly, mainly because they were going broke from renovating the house. The long-haired dad hired a contractor to save money, even if it meant sacrificing his girly body and dignity. The next day, the renovation workers arrived at the house and mentioned a foul smell coming from the walls. The contractor quickly smashed the wall, revealing the rotting and stinking corpses of the Fantastic Four. The 2 dads hurriedly explained that they weren't responsible, but before they could elaborate, the contractor suddenly struck a worker dead with his hammer. So he declared that they were all in the same boat now. It turned out that the contractor was in debt and facing a divorce. If this news got out, his career would be over. So he decided to add the worker's body to the wall, cover the smell with some lemon, and seal it up as if nothing had happened. Seeing the contractor's hammer, the 2 dads had no choice but to join in. The contractor even expressed interest in getting involved with the dad's marriage. With this, the long-haired dad's secret of selling his girly body for money was exposed. The short-haired dad suddenly found the courage to kick the contractor out, but when they opened the door, the rubber man appeared and killed the contractor. The 2 dads, frightened, tried to run away, only to find that they could no longer leave the house. The dads finally realized they were already dead. It turned out that Ruby had killed the sleeping dads in order to keep Scarlett. When Scarlett returned home and faced the situation, she quickly calmed down. The family sat down together to talk, and Scarlett found the experience surreal. The dads appeared both dead and alive, so she wasn't sure if she should be sad and shed her crocodile tears. At that moment, the dads were more concerned about finding a safe place for Scarlett than their own deaths. Scarlett confessed that her ghost girlfriend Ruby was the killer, but assured them that she wouldn't be harmed. The dads were speechless. How could they approve of their relationship after what Ruby had done to them? But Scarlett was rebellious and determined to celebrate Halloween that night. She changed into her rubber hormone outfit and went out with Ruby, as Halloween was the only day ghosts could leave the haunted house and walk the streets. As they strolled hand in hand, Ruby asked Scarlett if she blamed her for killing her dads. Scarlett comforted her, saying that if it weren't for her, her shitty dads might have divorced, and she didn't want to shuttle between two homes during the holidays. They decided to put aside the topic of suicide and enjoy their one night of Halloween fun. As they were having a great time, Scarlett's friend suddenly appeared, asking where she had been and why she hadn't replied to her messages. Then Ruby became possessive and snarky, saying Scarlett didn't like boring people. Scarlett's friend left in anger, and Scarlett quickly followed. The two were each other's only friends. The friend was upset and revealed that she knew what kind of person Scarlett was, cold and unsympathetic. The disappearance of the four girls was connected to Scarlett, and to protect Scarlett, she had lied to the police. She told Scarlett to leave and not to appear in her life again. Just as their friendship was about to collapse, the Fantastic Four appeared, intending to hurt Scarlett's friend. At the critical moment, it was Ruby who prevented the tragedy and helped chase away the Fantastic Four. Ruby was indeed passionate and realized that Scarlett and her friend were true friends, so she declared that she would protect them. However, upon learning the truth, Scarlett's friend still insisted that if Scarlett truly loved someone, she should set them free. As the Fantastic Four were constantly being bullied by Ruby, they devised a plan to get revenge during Halloween, hoping to kill Scarlett outside the haunted house. That way, Scarlett wouldn't be able to resurrect indefinitely, preventing Scarlett and Ruby from ever seeing each other again. The chase began, and Scarlett realized the seriousness of the situation. She ran desperately, hiding in a stairwell with a knife, always on guard. Eventually, she fell asleep leaning against the wall. When she awoke, a shadow appeared on the wall. Dawn was approaching. On their way home, Ruby teased the Fantastic Four for running out of energy during the chase. Suddenly, the four girls reappeared, blocking Scarlett and Ruby's path. They still had a chance to kill Scarlett before sunrise. Unafraid, Scarlett pushed Maya aside, gazing at Ruby and passionately declaring her love. However, she didn't want to spend her entire life in the haunted house. She turned to the Fantastic Four and apologized for killing them out of humiliation. She only wanted to pack her belongings and bid farewell to her fathers. Maya and the others had merely wanted to cause a scene, but after Scarlett's softened tone, they didn't want to pursue the matter further. After saying goodbye to her fathers, Scarlett walked downstairs to find Ruby waiting at the door. They embraced, and Scarlett stepped outside, becoming the first person to leave the haunted house alive. 10 months later, the ghosts had learned to live together peacefully. They spent their days baking pancakes together and playing guessing games. Scarlett called Ruby, revealing she had found the man who had abused Ruby years earlier. Today would be his last day alive and the worst day of his life. Suddenly, Scarlett donned a rubber suit and, wielding a hammer, knocked on the man's door and began to avenge Ruby. As a ghost trapped in the house forever, Ruby couldn't move freely and all she could do was wait. Since then, no one dared to knock on the haunted house's door on Halloween, but Scarlett always appeared on time. Even if it was only for one night each year, it was enough to embrace the person she loved. The second story, titled Baal, begins in the clinic where the couple, Liv and Matt, are consulting with the doctor about conceiving a baby. Unfortunately, the doctor says their chance with the IVF treatment decreases, as they have been trying multiple times already. The doctor suggests trying a different method, but Liv is persistent. She maintains that she wants to be pregnant, to feel a baby growing inside her no matter how much it can cost her. So the doctor allows them to try the IVF again, and then they leave. As Matt goes to get the car, the clinic's flirty receptionist, Bern, approaches Liv by complimenting her hormone-rich husband, Matt. Liv tells her that they will make an appointment again. Then Bern sympathizes with her, as she has been trying to conceive for 2 years. So she offers her the fertility totem and instructs her to put it under their bed during their sexy time for a successful pregnancy. Liv tries to reject her, but she convinces her to take it. Later that night, Liv puts the totem under their bed. Matt enters the room and sits on the bed with her. He tells her about his career and being inferior to her when it comes to financing. They then proceed with their fleshly desires. 4 months later, it shows Liv struggling to calm her fat baby boy. The babysitter helps her, and Liv expresses her frustration about her failure as a mother and freaks out. That night, in their bedroom, Liv passes by their baby monitor and is astonished by the static lines and eerie sounds. Then, she remembered the totem under their bed and put it inside the box in their storage room. As she goes out of the room, her husband startles her, wearing a scary mask. Matt explains that he is wearing the mask because he will go back to the set later, and that he came home to check in on her as the babysitter worries about her. Liv gets frustrated and tells him he should not leave them at night if he's really concerned. Matt defends himself by saying that he does not want to be seen as the guy who's only rich in hormones but not cash, and has to live off his wife's money. Liv seems to be having postpartum depression and opens up as she complains about her emotional condition as a first-time mom. Matt comforts her verbally without using his muscles by saying that whatever she is feeling is normal. Later on, he hands her a calling card, telling her to consider seeing the specialist recommended by his agent. Later, while sleeping, Liv is disturbed by her baby's cry from the monitor. She's about to go back to sleep when she sees from the monitor a demonic creature standing in front of her baby. Liv hurries to her baby's room. She checks the cabinet, but there is no one. As she walks backward, she looks at the monitor she's holding. Shockingly, the demonic creature is standing right behind her. She quickly turns around, but the creature vanishes into thin air. The next day, Liv decides to see the specialist. She tells her about her frustrations as a first-time mom and that her baby seems to hate her. So the specialist reassures her and advises her on dealing with her baby. After that, Liv gives her baby a detox bath and puts him in the crib. Liv feels gratified and tells Matt how the specialist's advice works effectively. Matt feels proud about it, but he's rushing and tells her he will get some coffee before his audition. Before he goes, Liv gives him a cup of coffee she had made for him. Right then, the baby cries from the monitor, so Liv goes to his room. In the room, she sings a lullaby to calm her annoying baby when suddenly she notices the totem in the crib. She's terrified of how it got there since she put it in the storage room, and the totem looks different. Liv hurries to check the box in the storage room and is surprised to see the box empty. She then confronts the babysitter, asking her if she puts it in the crib. The babysitter denies it and asks why she has it. While looking straight at the totem, the babysitter suddenly feels terrified and speaks in a different language. Frighteningly, she tells Liv she does not want to work there anymore while doing a sign of the cross, leaving Liv confused. Then, Liv hears an uncanny noise from the cellar, so she goes downstairs to check, only to see suspicious huge claw scratches on the wall. Suddenly, the fog comes out and something falls from the ceiling that scratches her arm. After that, Liv and Matt talk about the incident. Matt tells her that he understands the babysitter's decision to leave, as the totem really looks satanic. He asks her where she got the totem, and Liv lies about getting it from a talisman. Matt dismisses her agitation about having a ghost in their house and expresses his worry about her being strange lately. Matt then tells her how he thought she became better with the help of a specialist, and he's even worried because he will be gone to have shooting nights soon. Later that night, Liv searches online about the fertility god and is frightened as she finds out that it links to a demonic creature called Baal. Suddenly, the baby cries on the monitor, showing a static and loud noise. She picks it up and hurries to her baby's room. Although the baby is crying a little, he's doing good, so she leaves the room. Liv rechecks the monitor and hears a fuzzy message from a voice in the high-pitched static. The next day, Liv talks about the incident with Matt. She plays the static and tries to prove that a voice is saying something. Matt dismisses it by pointing out that she has not been sleeping. Liv then plays the audio again and emphasizes the voice saying, "I want him," and gets even more frustrated. But Matt says he doesn't know what he's hearing, so Liv plays it again and freaks out. Until the following day, Liv is sleeplessly listening to the audio. Matt approaches and brings the specialist with him. The specialist tries to listen to the audio, but she returns the headset instantly. The specialist explains what's going on with Liv, which is psychological. It makes Liv feel like she's delusional. But then, the specialist tells her that she's just sleep-deprived, so she hands her a bottle of medicine. After that, Liv takes the pill. Later that night, the couple host a dinner party with Matt's friends. Meanwhile, one friend gets the Ouija board and invites them to play. Matt refuses, but Liv insists that it's okay. They start to play the spirit board led by Matt's friend, Emma. Then the Ouija pointer starts to move and they seriously follow. But it is just Matt who controls and makes fun of them, so they try again. Right then, one friend tells them that the Ouija pointer has moved. Liv leads the group and asks the spirit if it wants to say something. Liv is agitated as the Ouija pointer forms the phrase, "He is mine." She freaks out and throws the Ouija board in fear. Matt tries to calm her down, but Liv connects the phrase to what she heard and saw from the baby's monitor and the scratches in the cellar. She's convinced that the demon in their house is after their baby. Matt follows Liv as she walks out. He is upset as she embarrassed him in front of his friends for seeing her act like crazy. Matt then tells her that he cannot tolerate her anymore. He asks her to fix herself by reminding her of the long process they have undertaken just to get her a successful pregnancy. Later, Liv is carrying their baby, crying because of the thunder. She calms him down when suddenly the demonic creature shows out of the window. Liv shouts with rage, telling the creature that it will never get her baby. The following day, as the receptionist, Byrne, goes out of the clinic building, Liv comes out of nowhere. She confronts Byrne while holding the totem. She tells her that the totem is Baal and it wants her baby, so Liv asks her how to get rid of it. After that, Byrne accompanies Liv to her place, filled with demonic literature and statues. She explains that Baal's totem is a fertility god, not a demon. While browsing some books, Byrne explains how interested she is in all the church stuff and that magic saved her life. Byrne finally finds the summary of the ritual from the book, which will help Liv, and gives her the ritual dagger. That night, Liv sets up the place with candles and starts the ritual, following Byrne's book. She recites a spell, cuts her palm with the ritual dagger, and lets her blood flow to the totem. Then she spatters the blood from the dagger into the candles while reciting the spell. Suddenly, she hears the whisper of the demonic creature from behind. Out of frustration, Liv quickly turns around and strikes behind her. Shockingly, she had stabbed her husband, Matt. 2 weeks later, Matt visits Liv in the mental institution. Liv is apologetic about the incident and tells him that she can't stop seeing the knife. Matt comforts her verbally, saying that she doesn't need to be there, all locked up. But Liv feels guilty and afraid that she might harm their baby, so she decides to stay there, and Matt kisses her hand before leaving. Later, Matt walks to the parking lot where a car is waiting for him. It turns out Matt is having a hormone affair with Byrne, and she has been waiting in the car. Byrne compliments him for being such a great actor. He tells her that her role is also over. She can now eliminate the pagan props in her apartment. After that, Matt and his friends celebrate at Liv's house with Byrne. As it turns out, the entire demonic plot was all a show, and they fabricated it so Matt could divorce Liv and get her money, and by that time, he'll be rich in both cash and hormones. Then, each of them recalls how they partake in the process. One friend was in charge of the hidden sound system, baby's monitor, and the wall scratches. The woman, Emma, was responsible for carving the 3 different totems and setting up the fog in the basement. Simultaneously, Emma's boyfriend brags about his struggle with wearing the devil thorn. Then he talks about the other man's task of switching the pills to make Liv hallucinate, while the other man asks Matt about the prize. Matt tells them that the legal process takes months, but he reassures them of a comfortable life that awaits them once it's all done. They rejoice, and suddenly the baby cries. Matt is reminded of his responsibility and talks about how he struggled to maintain a low sperm count despite his being rich in hormones, so as to prevent Liv from getting pregnant intentionally. Then, Matt goes to the baby's room. While Matt is in the room, his friends toast the success of their plan. Suddenly, a sound creaks, and the speaker starts to play. The other man says he surely took out the speaker system, but then the lights turn off, and Byrne notices the fog. Emma says it is impossible because she took the machine back to the apartment. Byrne is upset and tells them to stop it since the show is over. But they are all flustered, telling each other that they are not doing anything. Then they hear an eerie voice saying, "You are mine!" Suddenly, a growling noise intensifies and they all run for their shitty lives. Emma's boyfriend runs first and the demon strikes his head. Next, it cuts Emma's greasy stomach open from behind. Meanwhile, Matt hears someone scream as the demon pulls off the other man's organ. Matt goes out to check and sees Emma's body on the floor. Then he hears Byrne and sees the demon strangling and breaking her neck. After the incident, it shows Matt in prison for murdering his friends. Liv has been released from the mental institution and comes to visit her husband. She asks him why he did it. Matt confesses that he did not want kids and eventually stopped liking her, but admitted that he wanted her money. Liv asks if he killed his friends because of greed, but Matt denies and says it's only what the police think. He then tells her that Baal, the demon, was real and it killed his friends to blame him. Liv is infuriated. She distrusts him and denies helping him get out of jail. For the last time, he tries to gaslight her as the father of their son, to hire him an attorney, but Liv is determined. She walks out and Matt pleads with her not to return to their house as the demon is real. Later that night, the demon Baal shows up in Liv's room asking her to release him. It turns out Byrne gave her the real summoning spell, and she performed the ritual again in the mental institution, which summoned the demon to her. It also reveals that it's Liv who sent the demon to frame her unfaithful husband by killing his friends. In the end, Liv agrees to release the demon in exchange for giving her another baby, and so Liv and the demon start to get intimate on the bed. The third story, titled Drive-In, begins with a young couple, Chad and Kelly, exploring the mysteries of the human body, especially their smelly parts. Passionate, Chad wants to learn more, but Kelly isn't mentally prepared. Although he verbally respects her wishes, he still feels hormone-frustrated. The next day, Chad discusses the situation with his friends, who quickly identify the problem. They suggest watching a horror movie to bond, as fear can stimulate his girlfriend's hormone response. Chad is intrigued, and he binge-watches all horror movies from Daniel CC Movie Channel, but finds most of them are terrible. His friends recommend taking his girlfriend to a drive-in theater where a classic horror film, Rabbit Rabbit, is being re-released. The film was only shown once in 1986, after which the audience began fighting and 6 people died. It was rumored that the film's content was too horrifying. The director was subsequently jailed for that, and all copies were destroyed. However, the screening this time was of the director's privately held copy. Chad went home and did his homework diligently, buying the tickets with his buddies at a high price. He was determined to succeed in the drive-in theater this time. As for the previous failure to get intimate, Kelly was actually a bit concerned. Although she said she wanted to take it slow, her gay friend Lady Bro insisted that she was just afraid. Coincidentally, Chad invited her to the drive-in theater the next night with tickets in hand, and Kelly agreed without hesitation. The forbidden film with terrifying rumors was being re-screened, and many people were eager to watch it. People lined up in their cars, waiting for ticket inspection, while a one-eyed woman outside the wire fence held up a sign shouting not to watch the movie. Chad and Kelly parked their car and met up with their friends. Kelly promised Lady Bro that she wouldn't be scared tonight and would make progress with Chad. Lady Bro also had plans. He wanted to have some chilling fun with Chad's buddy, Milo. The one-eyed woman stopped Chad. She was an audience member during the 1986 screening and had experienced the chaos firsthand. Her eye had been eaten by her crazed boyfriend that time. The one-eyed woman hoped that Chad could do something to stop the movie from being played. Chad was concerned, but before he could think it through, Kelly called him away. Today marked half a year since their first official date, and Kelly was finally willing to get more intimate with Chad. Meanwhile, Lady Bro got into Milo's car and was more direct, not hesitating to give him a free tongue massage. As the movie began, everyone in the theater focused their attention on the screen, including the projectionist. Unexpectedly, in an instant, the one-eyed woman sneaked into the projection room, intending to cut off the power. Now manipulated by the movie, the projectionist had already mutated and attacked her, sending her straight to meet Jesus. Milo was enjoying himself with his eyes closed, while Lady Bro occasionally glanced at the screen. The next moment, Milo was swallowed whole by the mutated Lady Bro, including his smelly part. Chad and Kelly realized something was wrong. Luckily, they were busy kissing and hadn't paid much attention to the movie, escaping the initial chaos. The mutated people attacked their car, and Kelly quickly drove away while Chad kicked the attackers off. However, the mutated Lady Bro was on the windshield, obstructing Kelly's view. The car crashed into a wall, and Chad took Kelly to hide in the projection room. Both of their phones were left in the car, and the landline wasn't working. They could only wait for things to calm down outside. While waiting, Chad was attracted by the chaos outside and the movie scenes. The mutated projectionist attacked Kelly from the corner, but Chad quickly counterattacked. He furiously smashed the projectionist's head with film reels until it was a bloody mess. Chad realized he was acting strangely due to the scenes he saw, so he quickly unplugged the projector to stop being manipulated by it. They spent the night hiding in the projection room. Chad wanted to call the police, but Kelly didn't trust them. Instead of being interrogated repeatedly by the police, she'd rather find the director, destroy the original film, and prevent more people from being affected by the movie. Kelly carried a shotgun for self-defense as the two quietly left the building. Chad encountered his mutated friend, but no matter how much he called out to him, his friend couldn't return to his original form. With a heavy heart, Chad had to kill him. From that moment on, Chad agreed with Kelly's words. Instead of reporting to the police, their priority was to find the director and prevent the tragedy from happening again. Chad found out the director's address from the logistics company that transported the movie reels. The director was so poor that he could only live in a trailer, but there was an expensive Rolls-Royce parked next to it. When the two burst into the trailer, the director was watching the news about the drive-in theater massacre. He was thrilled to have caused such chaos, and was extremely disappointed when he learned that the two were survivors. He couldn't understand why they didn't immerse themselves in the movie. However, he became twistedly excited, wanting them to describe the horrific scene in detail. The director was already sick. He had specifically made this film, calling it an art piece. There were no terrifying scenes in this horror movie. The horror lay within the audience. The director and editor had tried thousands of times to incorporate various sounds and images into the film, invading the subconscious minds of viewers to stimulate their violent and terrified sides. The final product was this movie, Rabbit Rabbit. When the film premiered for the first time, it caused chaos before the director could even enjoy it, landing him in jail. During his 15-year sentence, he continued to refine the sound and image synchronization. Upon release, he applied these improvements to the last remaining copy of the film, waiting for the chance to screen it and enjoy his ultimate masterpiece. Chad and Kelly's friends died in the massacre, but the director in front of them didn't care. He even called them historical witnesses. Furious, Kelly shot him in the leg, causing him to become submissive. He then cooperated and revealed the location of the original film reels. Chad found all the reels and placed them on a gas stove. He burned the so-called art pieces to ashes, and the twisted director was buried along with them. As he was dying, the director screamed madly, asking the two to think about why a poor man like him would own a Rolls-Royce, and how he would become a great director in the history of cinema. It seemed the crisis was over, and Chad and Kelly could finally start their lives together. However, they saw a headline on their computer. The said film was now streaming on Netflix, indicating a coming hellish night. The fourth story, titled The Naughty List, begins with four men living together in a Hollywood mansion, each with a luxurious car parked out front. Their source of wealth comes from their joint YouTube channel, The Bro House. The Bro House features Zin, who often appeared half-naked to flex his muscles, Wyatt, who loves having fun and is fond of spicy girls, James, who gained fame for his beauty tutorials, and Barry, who handles filming and operations. The group of Fantastic Four is quite diverse in race and politically correct. Their channel became popular by creating outrageous and crazy challenge videos. As the tastes of their fans grew more demanding, breaking 5 million subscribers became their latest challenge. The Fantastic Four vowed to create more exciting content and decided to film people jumping off buildings. 5 days before Christmas, they spent a day under a bridge and actually found a man about to end his shitty life. Excited, Zin dragged his friends over to witness the fantastic moment. He even wanted to film close-ups of the body. Barry felt they were going too far, saying they shouldn't exploit the dead, but Zin argued they were simply improving video quality. Barry, the oldest of the group, was often dismissed as an old-fashioned relic by Zin. His opinion seemed to carry the least weight in the group. Nevertheless, they edited the video and released it during a live-streamed party. They expected to gain 1 million more fans with this exclusive and crazy content, praising the man for choosing his own way to die without limits or excuses. However, instead of applause, the audience strongly disapproved. Barry's judgment was right. The content was too morally twisted. Viewers not only disliked the video, but also started a negative comment bombarding campaign. Their subscriber count dropped by tens of thousands. The backlash spread quickly, and overnight, the Bro House became a trending topic on social media. Hundreds of thousands of people petitioned to ban them. Even with the loss of subscribers, the Bro House still had more followers than most channels. They started thinking about how to recover from the crisis. Apologizing wouldn't work, as people would accuse them of fake crying. They couldn't admit they were wrong, so they decided to cater to their female fans with suggestive content. James was excited about the idea, but Wyatt immediately expressed strong disapproval of homosexuality. Barry pointed out that deliberately creating suggestive content could be seen as offensive to that community and might backfire. Zin hesitated, and as they were discussing their next move, they heard noises outside. Their luxury cars, including a Lamborghini, were being taken away by sponsors who had decided to withdraw their support. Desperate to regain their commercial value, the group tried to create the suggestive content, but Wyatt constantly emphasized his heterosexuality during filming. This contradictory approach unsurprisingly led to the failure of the series, and their subscriber count kept dropping. After that, Barry proposed they should get back to their roots. When they first started making videos, they did it purely for fun, so they needed to be themselves again. With no better ideas, they agreed. As Christmas approached, they decided to go to a shopping mall to find inspiration. At the mall, there was a Santa Claus meet and greet taking place. The Fantastic Four naturally wanted to film it. The recent success had made them forget what it meant to be humble. Within minutes, they started to taunt the staff maliciously, verbally harassed a female employee, and even insulted a little person working there. Zin took it a step further, telling the children that Santa Claus doesn't exist. He even danced in front of the Santa actor. Surprisingly, this Santa had a temper and knocked Zin down, boldly predicting, "You'll get what's coming to you." On Christmas Eve, the group uploaded a video of their antics at the mall, but instead of laughs, they received even more backlash. If this continued, they wouldn't be able to afford their luxurious home anymore. The four started blaming each other, and tensions grew. One day, Zin received a call from the Los Angeles Police Department. Their pranks had quickly caught the attention of law enforcement, who had bigger cases to solve. It turned out that the original actor who was supposed to play Santa in the mall was found dead at home. The angry Santa they had encountered that day could potentially be a murder suspect. All four were requested to visit the police station the next day. They quickly rewatched the video, and while doing so, someone uploaded a video of Wyatt being brutally murdered in their warehouse. Confused, they decided to investigate since Wyatt had just gone to fetch some beer. They believed it must be Wyatt's prank. Due to the graphic content, Barry decided to delete the video. However, within a minute, the video had already received countless likes, something they hadn't experienced in a long time. James hesitated to delete it, and strangely, the video was re-uploaded once it was removed. At the same time, they received a link about the legend of Santa Claus, who was said to be a vengeful god that not only brought gifts, but also punished the wicked. They realized they had angered a powerful being, and the real drama began. In their yard, Zin encountered the Santa they had humiliated at the mall. His skinny muscles were no match for the wrathful Santa, who knocked him out with a single punch. When Zin regained consciousness, he was bound by colorful lights. The man dragged him into the pool, causing a short circuit and a power outage, accompanied by Zin's chicken-like screams. James and Barry frantically called the police, but since they had played too many pranks in the past, the authorities were hesitant to respond, saying they would send a car to check. Meanwhile, a video of Zin's death was uploaded to their channel. The two finally realized that the Grim Reaper had come for them. They rushed out to their car to escape, but before they could open the door, James's hand was shot and pinned as the vengeful Santa aimed his crossbow at them. James was shot through the head, while Barry was only hit in the leg. He managed to crawl back into the house just as the power returned. Desperate, Barry left a message on their channel asking for help. Their death videos caused their subscriber count to skyrocket. People praised the realism and excitement of the videos, but no one paid attention to Barry's plea for help. Suddenly, he heard a noise on the roof and looked at the fireplace, wondering if Santa would really come down the chimney. He tried to block it with some items, but instead of Santa, gasoline poured down, soaking him entirely before he could wet his pants. Just before the fire ignited, Barry realized that if he could crawl to the pool in time, he might be able to save himself. A sudden notification appeared on the computer. 5 million subscribers! The enticing achievement of 5 million fans had been reached through the brothers' death videos. As the channel operator, Barry couldn't help but cheer in front of the computer, calling it a Christmas miracle. Of course, the next second he was engulfed by fire and sent to meet the real Santa Claus. The next day on Christmas, the blood-stained Christmas tree was the last gift for the Bro House's channel. The fifth story, titled Feral, begins with a couple, Jay and Addie, arguing while driving their car. Taking advantage of the holiday, they planned a trip to the forest park for camping with their son, Jacob. Jay didn't want to camp with other families, so he drove deeper into the forest, claiming to fully experience nature. At that moment, Jacob wished he could go back home and watch TV, while Addie felt somewhat helpless. Being far from the crowd had its perks. At least they wouldn't disturb others if they were attacked by a wild bear. Soon, Jay parked the car by the lake. Addie took care of Jacob, while Jay set up the camp. He was quite handy and quickly set up the tent. As night fell, Jacob was happily watching the campfire. The couple enjoyed the starry sky, feeling relaxed and romantic. Eager for some alone time, Addie put Jacob to bed. Jay continued admiring nature, not noticing a strange figure nearby. Finally, with Jacob asleep like a piggy, the couple had some sexy time together. Suddenly, a figure ran past the tent like a peeping Tom, but unnoticed by the couple. The family of three safely survived until the morning. Jay took Jacob fishing while Addie noticed bloodstains on the grass. Following the trail, she found a deer torn apart, its internal organs hanging from tree branches. Jay gave his son a gift, a compass he used when he was a Boy Scout. The father and son had a great time playing hide-and-seek in the forest. Jacob loved scaring his dad to wet his pants. But the next moment, Jacob disappeared. Jay and Addie searched frantically for their son, but found nothing. They had no choice but to call the police. As the search for their son went on, 10 years passed. Jacob's disappearance made the news. Jay gave up his job to search for his son full-time. One day, a hunter brought news. He often took people on forest park adventures and set up camera traps every year. Last week, he captured a boy in a photo who seemed to be around Jacob's age. Jay wasn't too interested, as he had grown accustomed to disappointment and scams. The hunter wasn't bothered, pulling out an old Boy Scout compass that looked like the one Jay gave his son. Jay became excited, but the hunter wasn't offering the information for free. He offered to take Jay to the camera location if he paid enough money. Jay had to find his wife because he had no money left, and the couple had divorced after their son's disappearance. Addie tried to return to a normal life, but she knew deep down that she hadn't given up on finding her son. Seeing the Boy Scout compass broke her defenses. The hunter led the ex-couple back to the forest where the camera was said to be located deep within. There were rumors of drug traffickers secretly planting drugs in the area, and it was speculated that their son was kidnapped by these criminals. To ensure their safety, they had to enter the forest as soon as possible and avoid being captured by the drug traffickers. Along the way, the couple argued about their son's disappearance and their divorce. In truth, they still loved each other and wanted to find their son together. However, Jay didn't want to drag Addie down, so he gave her the cold shoulder, causing her to initiate the divorce. The hunter listened to their bickering in silence, feeling somewhat speechless. The trio regained their composure, but they failed to notice the strange creatures lurking in the forest, watching them intently. To venture deeper into the forest, they had to pass through a ranger station to resupply. The ranger knew about the couple's lost son and advised them to turn back, saying it was not worth searching any longer. On the night Jacob disappeared, he had seen a Bigfoot-like creature carrying a person away. If that person was Jacob, then the chances of survival were slim. The ranger suggested they return home and try for another child. However, Jay refused to give up and insisted on following the hunter deeper into the forest. Addie tagged along, but she was skeptical about the Bigfoot story. After all, the mutilated deer didn't seem like the work of another animal. The hunter became angry and told Addie to stop sowing doubt and follow him into the woods. Upon reaching their destination, the trio found the ground littered with mutilated corpses, their insides ripped open and partially eaten. Horrified by the scene, the hunter suddenly confessed that he had no information about Jacob. It turned out the photo and compass were all fake, part of a scheme to swindle Jay out of his money. The hunter had conspired with the drug traffickers, planning to hand over the ex-couple to them and then take their wealth. But now that the traffickers were dead, the hunter decided to kill the couple himself. As he was about to shoot Jay, one of the corpses suddenly sprang to life and viciously tore open the hunter's throat. Several monsters also swarmed in and feasted on the hunter's body. The gunshot had only grazed Jay's side as the creatures had distracted the hunter. Without time to wonder what these creatures were, the ex-couple ran back to the ranger station while the monsters feasted. The ranger escorted them to his cabin and calmly treated Jay's wound. As Addie described the scene, the ranger became visibly anxious, asking if the creatures had followed them. His concern caught Jay's attention, and it was clear the ranger knew something. With a gun to the ranger's head, Jay forced him to reveal the truth. A group of monsters had been living deep within the forest for years, all due to a strange government plan. The establishment of numerous forest parks was a way to protect the public from these creatures, preventing them from being killed and eaten. Each year, many people disappeared in national parks, and though the blame was placed on bears, it was actually due to these monsters. The origins of these creatures were varied, including genetic mutations, inbreeding, primitive humans, and soldiers who never surrendered after the war. Over the years, around 2,000 people had gone missing in national parks worldwide. The government and the military knew that these individuals had been eaten, but they continued to conceal the truth from the public. Jay and Addie suddenly remembered that when Jacob had gone missing, not only had the police searched for him, but the military had also been involved. It turned out that whenever there was a disappearance, the military would dispatch soldiers to hunt the monsters and control their population. Unfortunately, the soldiers had underestimated the creatures, and the number of monsters killed was fewer than the number of fallen comrades. It seemed that Jacob's chances of survival were slim. Although they didn't find their son, at least they learned the truth. The ranger finished his story and prepared to report the incident, waiting for the military to send soldiers to clear the area once again. But just as he managed to contact the authorities, he noticed that the window in the room was open. The monsters charged inside, eager to devour the humans. The ranger was the first to be attacked. With almost no chance to defend himself, he quickly became the monster's meal. Jay and Addie immediately fled, with the creatures hot on their heels. Just when they were surrounded, the couple spotted a skeletal throne in the distance. Seated on the throne was a boy who still looked human, wearing a compass around his neck. It was Jacob. Addie and Jay were overjoyed to find their son, but when the monsters asked Jacob who the couple was, he coldly replied that they were food. The creatures didn't hesitate to pounce on the couple, feasting on their bodies. Blood splattered on Jacob's face, and he tasted it, seemingly savoring its flavor. The couple's 10-year search for their missing son ends in tragedy, as they discover he has become a man-eating monster and meet their own demise. The sixth story, titled Game Over, switches the scene back to the same terrifying haunted house in Los Angeles. The haunted mansion has now become a bed and breakfast, with a warning that once you enter, you should not expect to leave. The more frightening the warning, the more it attracts thrill seekers to explore. Connie and her boyfriend are avid fans of horror and have booked a night's stay at the haunted house online. As Connie entered the house, she was startled by a man in a leather jacket, but dismissed it as her imagination. The house was well decorated, with guidance cards left in the kitchen by the homeowner. Anyone unaware of the truth would think it was just an ordinary ghost house designed for exploration and puzzle solving. Following the guidance, the couple went upstairs. This was not the time for detective work. They couldn't miss the opportunity for a sexy but smelly experience in such an exciting place. Just as Connie tucked boyfriend into bed using her skinny muscles, they heard a voice from downstairs saying, "You will die here." Just then, a red ball rolled across the floor, and the couple became more excited about the authenticity of the haunted house. They eagerly went to explore, but didn't notice the man in the leather jacket passing by the door. A ghostly nurse lay at the bottom of the stairs, got up, and walked away as if nothing had happened. The couple followed her into the basement. In the dungeon, 3 beautiful women pleaded for help. It turned out that these women had entered the haunted house on a dare during Halloween 10 years prior. They were welcomed by the ghost girl Ruby and were killed by the man in the leather jacket and the pig-headed man. The women told their tragic tale, but the couple assumed they were the non-player characters for the ghost house experience, so they remained calm and focused on solving the puzzle. Suddenly, Connie's boyfriend was attacked and injured, and the 3 beautiful women were killed again. It was then that the couple realized something was wrong and began to frantically seek an escape. The boyfriend was shot in the head by the pink lady, causing Connie to burst out in crocodile tears. Regardless, she had to run for her life first, but she encountered far too many ghosts along the way. Many of them were not original inhabitants of the haunted house, with terrifying clowns and bald ghosts making appearances one after another. Connie wanted to break free, but her body suddenly froze, and a loading bar appeared. On the screen, a message floated by, telling her she had been killed by a clown, and it's game over. It turned out this was a game called Escape from Murder House, and Connie was a character controlled by a boy named Rory, who was a die-hard fan of the TV series American Horror Story. His mother, Michelle, had divorced and quit her job, spending all her savings to develop this game to stay close to her son. She also hoped to make some money from it, but her efforts were only skin deep. Michelle didn't understand the essence of the said TV series and didn't want to. She only wanted to make the game visually stunning and the sound effects terrifying, not listening to Rory's advice. She even emotionally blackmailed him, saying that she did all this for him, and if he didn't like it, all her money would be wasted. Rory refused to be manipulated and suggested that if she really wanted to understand him, they could just watch horror movies from Daniel C.C. Movie Channel together. He decided to spend some time with his father instead. Perhaps Rory's words had an impact because Michelle spent day and night watching American Horror Story and taking notes, but she still couldn't grasp the essence. She decided to take a big step and buy the haunted house. The real estate agent had been trying to sell it for a long time, and Michelle managed to bargain the price down significantly, getting a big mansion in just a few minutes. On Halloween, Michelle said goodbye to her son, claiming she was going to have a chat with some American Horror Story screenwriters, but actually went to the haunted house alone. Because it's Halloween Day, numerous ghosts left the haunted house to enjoy their rare day of freedom. Maya from the gang of Fantastic Four warned Michelle not to enter the house, but she didn't believe in the supernatural and thought it was just a Halloween costume. Ruby greeted her at the door, and Scarlet couldn't wait to reunite with her ghost girlfriend, and they wanted to enjoy their evening together. Michelle wandered around the haunted house for half a day, but no ghost came out to answer her questions. A red ball rolled in front of her, and the sound of the house owners crying caught her attention. For years, the male owner, his wife, lover, and daughter had been trapped in the same house, leading a chaotic life. Michelle mistook him for a cosplayer and began discussing family issues with him. As they talked, they touched on the meaning of the haunted house. He said he lived repetitive lives here every day and felt only monotonous and desperate. Michelle didn't believe these words and wanted to ask other ghosts. As soon as the ghostly owner disappeared, Ruby and Scarlet appeared. On this day, ghosts still wanted to have fun, and keeping people in the haunted house was Ruby's idea of entertainment. Michelle only then realized those ghosts were real and wanted to kill her. The male owner tried to help Michelle escape, but was unsuccessful. Scarlet and Ruby ended Michelle's life with a single strike, and amidst the bloody moans, they romantically shared a kiss without using their tongues. A year later, on Halloween, Michelle had become a ghost member of the haunted house. On this day, she went out to visit Rory. Michelle bought the haunted house, trying to get to know her son better, but her stubbornness and disbelief in the supernatural led to her death. Now, Rory couldn't bear to hear anything about the haunted house anymore and stopped celebrating Halloween. If given the chance, he wished he could burn down the house, believing that fire could purify everything and release the trapped souls inside. As night fell, the ghosts gradually returned to the haunted house. Scarlet and her ghost girlfriend said their goodbyes. Rory arrived at the house with gasoline, intending to burn it down. Ruby, not wanting to leave the human world yet, rushed downstairs to kill Rory. However, the other ghosts in the house had grown weary of their dull, repetitive existence and longed for a final release. With the Fantastic Four and the male owner desperately trying to stop Ruby, she called for Scarlet's help. Despite being the strongest spirit in the house, Ruby couldn't withstand the combined force of the other ghosts and was stopped from reaching Rory. Scarlet rushed back in an attempt to prevent him from starting the fire, but a burning match fell from his hand, setting the infamous haunted house ablaze. Amidst the flames, Ruby wished for Scarlet to die with her, but Scarlet hesitated, tearfully leaving the burning house behind. The fire consumed the haunted house, and perhaps the ghosts trapped inside finally found their peace. 3 years later, a more mature Scarlet returned to the site of the haunted house. A new apartment building now stood in its place, and the real estate agent had sold all but one unit. With no more reports of ghostly disturbances, Scarlet boldly purchased the last available apartment for $1 million in cash. She quickly moved in, prepared to be with Ruby forever. However, no matter how much Scarlet called out for her ghost girlfriend, Ruby never appeared. In the next moment, Ruby materialized. It turned out the fire had released all the ghosts who longed for freedom, but Ruby, bound by her deep attachment, had chosen to stay. She had finally reunited with Scarlet. Suddenly, the screen displayed a message, delivering congratulations to the player who escaped the haunted house. It turned out this was all part of the game. In reality, Michelle had taken her son's advice and modified the game's content, earning positive reviews. However, Rory still proposed some new ideas for the game, and Michelle, being a diligent developer, didn't immediately agree. Now that the game had been launched, it was time for some mother-son bonding. Their relationship had improved and wasn't as strained as it appeared in the game. Rory was curious if the ghosts would enter the real world after the haunted house had burned down. Michelle thought it was impossible. Just then, a familiar red ball rolled out from somewhere, hinting that maybe the ghosts hadn't left after all. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.